Greetings, fellow investigators, and welcome back to our video podcast, Into the Darkness, where my friends and I play the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. I'm your host, Tom Rayleigh. Our campaign is The Curse of Nineveh. It was written by Mike Mason, Mark Latham, Scott Dorward, and Paul Fricker, and it's available from the Chaosium website. I'm the GM, and this is episode 9. Our recap will be given by Jason Melnichuk as his character Cyrus Finley. So without any further delay, let's continue our journey into the darkness. Jason?
All right, so let me just review my last journal entry here. It's been about 90 days, nothing but swapping this accursed idol back and forth. Nightmares just getting worse, hard, sleepless nights. Well, we met back at the Wentworth Club and discussed our options on what to do. And over coffee, we went back and forth from tossing it into the Thames to taking a trip to Nineveh, or just looking for these children of tranquility and just giving the damn thing back to them. There were many, many thoughts and many ideas on what to do with the idol. And much like the pronunciation of Schwanzeiger's name, we all had our own thoughts on that issue. So then our benefactor, Theodore Rayburn Price, requested an audience, so we went to he wanted to speak with us. There were some unusual break-ins, and we were sent to investigate them. One of them was at Andrew Noble's house. The second was at Matthew Smiley's home. Both homes are broken into. Well, not so much broken into, but if you can believe that some sort of shadow manifested into securely locked rooms and destroyed priceless collections of antique artifacts. Well, this is just a working theory, but the common bond between both incidents, besides locked rooms, was both collections had items or an item or items from the Nineveh region, and I think they were actually from the Temple of Nabu. And this is where I'm going to leave it for now. So,
all right. So you had left Matthew Smiley's house, and you were going to do what next?
Well, we've got one more name. Stanley Edgerton.
I think
in Kings.
the third break-in is the next stop of note.
And at some point, did we want to look into this Alan Tillsbury Pine to see, if he had any other connection besides being a passerby?
Oh, yeah. That wouldn't be a bad idea at all.
Don't think we'll get too much farther with that, but it is good to check just in case.
Yeah, at least we could check it off as all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there was some other relation he had to any of this, that would be quite noteworthy. Although I think, as far as I know, he's just an unfortunate pedestrian. But I think Edgerton first.
Oh, yeah.
And see how we can, collate these crimes.
All right. So his address is 7 Craven Hill in Kensington. It's in West London. As you drive to the street, it's you see that it's a 3-story house, semi-detached. It's not far from Hyde Park. Very, very nice looking house. Once again, somebody who obviously has money. You're parking in front, I guess.
Felix, you seem to be the man for first introductions. You want to continue that?
Sure. I'll take care of this. Or I'll go up. I don't mind. Before I go up, well, we're still in the car for just a second. There's something that was sticking in my mind back from when we were over at Andrew Noble's place. That was scratched on the wall, the "Let me out," or "I want out." Do you guys remember when we were talking to Simpkin? He went into this rant, and he said something about he wants out. We have to, don't free him. You guys remember Simpkin during his rant saying something to that effect? And he just lost it at that point. I mean, as soon as we started talking about that second dig.
Do you think, Felix, this is more about more of the gate and key matter?
It must be that. It could be. It's obviously a gate and a key would open up to set something free.
That would not be a good thing.
It's just something to discuss. You know, I don't.
No, that is. Yeah, I think you're quite wise to keep that in mind. I wonder, regarding these violent desecrations, if it's making a demand, free me or I'll continue to smash up your baubles, or if there's some kind of destruction of an artifact that it's trying to achieve. Well,
Or perhaps some kind of desperation. I get the feeling that there's some kind of desperation there which caused the rage.
We've not encountered a key yet.
Okay, but humor me here. The key might be the artifact that's giving us these nightmares.
That's
And
what
what
I'm
would be the
thinking it
lock?
is.
Now, the butler said he saw some sort of mist, or not mist, but like a shadow figure. Let's say each of these artifacts were from the temple, and something that's bound to the temple might only be able to communicate through other items that were in the temple. So if it's saying free me, maybe it's trying to let's say it was imprisoned there 5,000 years ago, whenever the hell it was. Its only outlet would be through the temple. If you have a piece and he has this tablet and he has this cuneiform tablet, maybe it's using the energy of those artifacts to communicate in any way it knows how. I mean, this is
manifest.
wait, yeah, this is far fetched. This is just making this up as I go, but
Honestly,
I mean,
with what we've been through, I don't think it's all that far fetched.
and we are an occult group. All of us are a part of the Wentworth Club in one form or another because we've researched occult. It's not like this is completely absurd. Maybe a
Well,
little.
in studies, I mean, it shows that there are objects that are bound with spirits, apparently,
Right.
out there.
Like, I believe
Um,
cytometry.
Yes, that's the word I was looking for. And what's to say that the binding could not also be some sort of way of spirit energy or some kind of related thing coming back and forth, but can't fully manifest because it doesn't have that ability for some reason. Small things as opposed to big thing.
I'm looking at my notes for the dates of these two vandalisms. One was on the 16th. I don't see the other, and I'm wondering. I mean, when we speak to Edgerton in a moment, we need to find a pattern so that we can anticipate the next event.
True.
So yeah, let's figure out those dates and locations and see if there's some sort of rational connection between the locations.
And there was also, if I remember correctly, the first incident was roughly at 12 at night, and the second incident at Smiley's was at 1 a.m. It just could be a guesstimated time on their end, but who knows if it's 12, 1, 2 coming up.
Mm-hmm.
There might be other manifestations that are out there too. If it's manifesting through artifacts that came from this secret dig, maybe there's manifestations in the British Museum or other people who've appropriated these artifacts.
We certainly could be in touch with our contact at the museum and see if anything's happened there.
Mm-hmm. I should probably move up to the door before we creep this guy out, though.
Quite Felix.
Well, no, it's okay. To clarify, you spoke to Rayburn Price on the 25th of October. The newspaper had been from the day before, or the day before, 2 days before. So the 23rd is when what's his name was murdered, Alan Tillsbury Pine, which was also the same night that Andrew Noble was broken into. And then Smiley was on the 16th of October that he was broken into. Okay.
And Edgerton, was that on the 8th?
Well, you don't know about Edgerton yet. You haven't.
We still got to get to the door.
Or maybe there was something about that.
I think we were told, I mean, I my notes are messy, but I think it says on 8th. Noble told us that Edgerton happened on the 8th.
Possibly Rayburn Price told you that too. Okay.
Now, one other thing before we knock on the door. I know for the Americas, October 31st, Halloween or All Hallows Eve is a spooky or demonic or mischievous night. I don't know if in the Middle East that would carry over. Is that a word? Just knowing that we're in October, maybe something's coming up.
It is considered in pagan traditions, and in some variations, Zoroastrianism. I think that's what you say. Zoroastrianism. It is a sacred day or a special day.
Just throwing it out there.
I think
it would be significant.
I'm sorry. Somebody's at the door. You would probably know that most of the Middle East is Muslim, and they probably follow a Muslim calendar. They don't follow the Western calendar, so it has no meaning whatsoever.
All right. I just didn't know if in occult circles it might have.
Well, it does. I mean, in occult circles, October 31st and April 31st.
Samhain and Beltane.
Or Walpurgis Nacht and Halloween, All Hallows Eve. So you walk up to the door, ring the doorbell. We heard it a second ago. And a maid answers the door. And she says, yes?
Yes, ma'am. I'm here to see Stanley Edgerton. I'm Felix Matthews.
Mr. Edgerton is not here right now. His wife is here.
Well, that might be awkward.
Would you like me to tell her that you're here?
Sure.
She says, wait just a moment, please.
Yes, ma'am.
She disappears for a couple seconds. And after a couple of moments, a woman appears. She's rather good looking. She looks like she's about 27 years old. She is very conservative looking, however. Her hair is back and she's dressed very smartly. She says, yes, I'm Ellis Edgerton. What can I do for you?
Yes, Miss Edgerton, I'm Felix Matthews. I was sent by Mr. Theodore Rayburn Price. He said that you may have experienced a break-in recently.
Oh, yes, but my husband's not here.
I don't want to intrude or make you uncomfortable in any way. Do you remember the date that occurred?
Well, yes, it was October 8th.
October the 8th.
Yes.
Do you know?
I'm sorry. Who are you people?
We're with the Wentworth Club. We're actually doing an investigation on on several break-ins.
I'm sorry. I'm being very rude. Please come inside.
Well, I don't want to. Like I said, I don't want to intrude. If Mr.
No problem. Please come inside.
Okay. All right.
And
all of us. There's
yes,
more.
Of course. If you're with the Wentworth Club. She's walking through, and the house is very nice. She's like, I'm sorry, my husband is in Newcastle upon Tyne dealing with business interests at the moment.
Well, Mrs. Edgerton, thank you very much for your time. if your husband knows more about this matter than you, we would be happy to return.
Well,
But if you're at liberty to discuss it, we are curious.
I've never really approved of my husband's little eccentricities. It's not the kind of thing that good people should be involved in. You understand.
Well, the antiquarian bug can hit, I think, even the best bred.
Well,
It is part of the empire, after all.
there is a man who occasionally comes by and brings my husband things. Now, not too long ago, he brought my husband a couple of clay slabs, and I asked Stanley about it, and he said that sometimes the British Museum sells object art that are not very important, and that this man was just a delivery man. But I'm not so sure.
There is some truth to that, Mrs. Edgerton. And yet your suspicions are also not unreasonable. The British Museum has vast stores of artifacts and does not either need or desire to maintain all of them in its holdings. However, some protocols are rather casual in that regard. Do you know this chap's name?
Gibbons, I think, was his last name.
That in its own right might be very helpful, because as Mr. Matthews impugned,
you're not going to talk to the police about this, are you?
By no means. No, but we are interested in, because of course there's a connection between who is selling these artifacts and who might inform a thief that there are artifacts to be found.
Well, Mr. Gibbons has been here more than once.
And were things destroyed in this instance?
Oh, yes. It was quite horrifying. We were both sitting downstairs. I was knitting. My husband was reading the newspaper, I believe. It was in the evening. And we suddenly heard a terrible crash come from upstairs in my husband's study. And he told me to wait, and he would go check on it. And I heard him go upstairs and suddenly cry out loudly, not like he was surprised, but as if he'd been injured. And I immediately ran up, and I'd already found the servants gathering around to find out what the commotion was. And I looked in, and my husband was on his knees, grabbing his head and crying like a baby. And all of his collection of artifacts had been smashed to pieces. And, well, he says, I told him at the time that whoever had done this probably was associated with some shady person, such as he's been dealing with. And he said, no, it was a phantom. And
A phantom, you say?
And I was like, what do you mean? And he says, well, when I came up, the door was locked. The windows are all closed. He says, and there was a darkness, a shadow, that suddenly rose up and bunked him in the head.
He was injured by it?
Yes. It hit him and knocked him to the ground, and then vanished out of the room somehow. And it had smashed everything. He was quite beside himself.
Mrs. Edgerton, without meaning to presume overmuch, we will tell you in confidence that other incidences have had similar characteristics. And so, as eccentric as your husband's explanation might seem to you, I think you should vouchsafe him some credulity with regard to this mysterious figure. This is the first we've heard of it injuring someone.
I heard that it might be some sort of cat burglar.
That is the most logical thing. We just don't know how the cat is going about these things because he seems extremely slippery.
Well, my husband didn't tell me if anything was missing or not, but pretty much everything is ruined.
Do you know if his collection included objects from ancient Sumeria or Arcadia?
Oh, I don't really know. I can take you upstairs and let you have a look around.
Oh, that would be extremely generous of you, if it's not too much of an imposition.
Yes, I don't really have a head for dates, so I don't. I'm not that interested in history. But yes, let's go upstairs. So she takes you up to the first floor, and it's pretty much exactly what you expect to see. He has a very nice study. In this case, it's actually his study. He has bookcases, he has a desk, and so forth. And he have a collection of glass cases and shelves and stuff with various things. And when you look around, you can tell that some of them are definitely Assyrian.
Any writing on the wall?
No, there's nothing torn up on the walls, but there is a lot of broken pottery and vases and things like that he had, and there's definitely a large cuneiform tablet that appears to have been broken in half.
Is there anything that looks like the little pot with a lid that we saw in the other house?
We'll do a spot hidden.
It's no.
You do glimpse pot shards and things like that from broken things that you can at least identify as Assyrian.
I'm going to make a valiant effort to read the cuneiform with my still unimpressive, what is it, 31?
Okay.
Like that. Yeah, nope. Can't make heads or tails of it. It looks different than the other ones.
It's probably just shopping lists again. Things that are unimportant. She says, if you'll excuse me for a few moments, I need to go talk to the cook. I was on my way in there before you came. I'll rejoin you in a few minutes. And she walks out and leaves you alone in the room.
Is there any of our staff around, or are we absolutely by ourselves?
You're by yourselves.
I want to see if he's got a journal or some kind of, since it's his study, check out his desk, see if he has a journal or anything else that might be of use to us.
All right. Do, now.
Luck?
No, it's unlocked. You go ahead and you open up, and there is, in fact, a journal inside. And when you flip open the journal, it just happens to fall to this page.
15th January. Smiley says he can introduce me so that I may start my own collection. Excited. 17th January. Met Gibbons by Russell Square. Said he could get me stuff if I had the money. Told him I wanted a tablet from the Campbell Thompson dig. Gibbons said he could get me a tablet in a week's time for £20. 26th January. Gibbons turned up at the house with the tablet. Sent the servants away and gave him the money. Told him to be more discreet next time and that I wanted some pottery, but to wait a couple of months till I had the money. 27th January. Alice wanted to know where I got the tablet from and who Gibbons was. Told her the British Museum often sold off pieces that weren't good enough for display. Gibbons was just a delivery man and for her to not worry about it. Told her to not mention it to her friends as the museum only does this kind of thing for discerning and discreet clients. Otherwise, everybody would be hounding them. Think she believes me. 4th of April. Saw Gibbons at the museum and arranged a meet-up. 5th of April. Gibbons has the pottery, a few pieces. and we'll bring it round when Alice is out.
At that point, you start to hear Alice coming back up the stairs.
Would it be beneficial for me to pocket this journal?
No.
Then I'm going to stick it right back where I found it and kind of nudge the drawer shut.
Okay.
I'd like to check out the windows just to verify that they're locked.
They are.
And the material in his study that isn't ancient is largely undisturbed or entirely undisturbed?
No, most of the things you'd call artifacts were disturbed. His books,
but not his bookshelves.
His books aren't disturbed.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that looks like it could be organic matter on the floor or anything like that?
No.
So
I mean, the servants have cleaned up the room, but you can still see evidence that things were thrown around and damaged the walls in places.
would it be safe to say in all three homes only ancient artifacts were destroyed? Nothing new was touched, or is that just...
No, but that seems to be a focus. Other things, it looks like the place is just, it looks like an angry bull got into every single one of these rooms and just tore the place apart out of just spite or anger.
Has Alice come back to the room yet?
Yeah, she stepped back in the room and she says, well, apparently we're having lobster tonight.
Oh, dread. Miss Edgerton.
Yes.
In the recent week or since the break-in or even just a bit before, have you by chance seen anyone peculiar, maybe wearing a red turban or...
Peculiar? No, nothing like that.
Okay.
Why? Are there strange foreigners walking about now?
This is
There's
London.
always
There's always
foreigners.
strange foreigners.
That's true.
No. No reason, nothing to worry about. Just trying to see what matters and what doesn't. And apparently this may not. So I wouldn't worry about it. The did he keep all the pieces of the broken, or did he throw everything away? Other than the large tablet we see there.
Well, to be perfectly honest, I don't know everything that he had in here.
Right.
I didn't pay that close attention, but I have a feeling that he didn't throw anything away. Even the broken pieces. I imagine that he wants very much to stick them all back together somehow.
Oh, yes, Mrs. Edgerton. After all, these artifacts are often in pieces when they are discovered. Antiquity being what it is. You said that your husband was in Newbury-upon-Tyne. When do you expect his return?
Oh, in a couple of days.
And I'll hand her a card and say, I would be most grateful if you could tender this to your husband. Tell him that we've noticed a pattern of destructive acts of this nature and would like to discuss the matter with him further.
Well, I'm sure that my husband would very much want to know who has done this, but quite frankly, I would like him to stop dealing with these sorts of people and to simply leave well enough alone.
Well, and frankly, Mrs. Edgerton, this Gibbons fellow is going to receive some scrutiny from our side and might quite possibly never darken your door again.
Excellent.
But again, I assure you of our complete discretion.
Yes. Thank you.
Quite. Anything else, fellows?
Mrs. Edgerton, were there any of your staff that was witness to any of the activities?
Well, maybe Mary heard some of this. She's in the kitchen. We can go ask her.
If it's not too much trouble.
All right, so you guys head downstairs. All Mary does is she can confirm that it happened on the 8th and that possibly it was the devil.
Did she see anything unusual?
No, but from what the master had said, a dark figure in the shadows that jumped out at him and attacked him.
All right.
All right. She's also kind of horny. I don't know. She's flirtatious, it says.
The maid or the
maid.
All right. I'll be right back, guys.
Alice is absolutely loyal to her husband. Very proper. All right. So you leave there. Where are you going to go next?
We're out of the house, correct?
Yeah, you've left.
So
what time of day is it?
Let's say by now it's
It's 3 house visits. We spoke to Rayburn Price in the morning, so yeah, 4-ish.
Yeah, I'll say 4. That works for me.
Tea time.
We need to make an inquiry at the museum to see if they have a Gibbons on their staff.
Well, let's speak of this over tea and come up with a plan for that.
You can phone the museum from the club as we collate our thoughts. If there is a Gibbons on staff, he won't be for long.
Well, we need to play it. You know, maybe we should question him first, set up an appointment, question him before
buy an object or two.
Doesn't usually
the
museum have a list of all of their people?
I would hope so.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm referring to that the public could see, you know, like this is the founder, this is the guy in charge of this, and this is the guy in charge of that. Or like a directory today, you would call them.
I don't think it would list like the janitorial staff and he might just be a simple, you know, fixes up the statues or does, you know, whatever. Not physically repairing them. He just might walk around and fix plaques and stuff and snatch stuff.
Somebody's putting up plaster walls and things. Was Archie Glossop a graduate student? Do you recall?
Yeah, he was.
So there's some degree of education required just as a fundament to be somebody on the curatorial staff.
Yeah, he was an assistant curator.
Right. And you know, custodial staff wouldn't have access to things that were worth selling.
Not likely. But you've got, you've got from the hierarchy down, below the curators, assistant curators, you're going to have porters. Porters are just gophers, you know. I need such and such a piece from this room, bring it up here so we can clean it or dust it. The curators don't carry that heavy stuff around themselves. And then you probably have assistant porters.
And it was mentioned a couple times that items just go missing, and then weeks later, sometimes they show up. So,
yeah, they've got quite a big staff of people.
Gentlemen, I have an idea that I'd like to put forth to you. And Reginald made some mention of it, and I've been formulating it in my head. Perhaps before we start really interrogating this Gibson fellow, why not we use him to obtain artifact and set up a situation of our own that we can monitor and see if we can bring this phantom in, see if he comes into us and we can see it firsthand. And then afterwards, we can meet with Gibson again and further interrogate him.
Yes, it's Gibbons, but I'm entirely on board with that suggestion. And given that my own domicile has been potentially compromised, although nothing ever turned up there, it seems like a good place to bait a trap. I'd like to keep it separate from my small collection, as this spirit is extremely destructive. But yes, buying the 2 new Assyrian pieces and setting up photographic materials and, salting the how does that work? Some spirits can't go over salt.
Yes.
Some silver on the windows and whatnot. I think it's quite worth a try. Assuming we can find this Gibbons.
I have extra room at my place. If possible, we could set something up there.
If you'd rather host the ghost, that's fine with me as well.
I'm the one who's doing a lot of research on this whole thing anyway. What's one more bit of research? And I could look firsthand on it. I am willing to be, as they say, guinea pig, and even sit in room to see if something manifests. Well, maybe if it is phantom, and maybe there'd be some way to communicate.
Just do it in a room that you don't have all of your books, Vladimir.
I have many empty rooms that we could set these up in, far away from anything valuable.
The only problem with that is that when there has been a manifestation, it's wreaked holy havoc. It's never actually encountered a person per se. That could be very dangerous to be in there when it decides to manifest. Because if it's going to take and chuck a tablet across the room, what's it going to do to you?
Well, it did encounter this Edgerton and popped him on the head, according to his wife.
And you have pointed potentially even killed man on the street.
Right.
But I could set up rooms so that I could observe from another room, so that if it manifests, we can not only get photographic evidence, but I could see it firsthand, potentially.
Yeah, that's true. And if it did hit Edgerton, then it would be at least semi-corporeal. So that could be, like Fuller says, very dangerous.
Well, I like the idea of using silver and salt to maybe even trap it. And if it has any sort of sentient capability, we could interrogate it.
And it can write in English.
Apparently, get some answers directly from the source.
The fellow, I assume we're at the club by now.
Oh, yeah.
Discussing this over tea and sandwiches. The fellow that we were connected to at the museum was Munden. Is that right?
Yeah. No, it was Longden.
Longden, right. Munden sent us to Longden. Right. Sykes sent us to Munden. Munden sent us to Longden. So I'd like to call Longden and inquire about a Gibbons. Is there a Gibbons on staff? And maybe I'll make 2 other names up too, so as not to totally tip the hand.
All right. So
Gibbons, Gibson, and Sigmund.
Okay. You call Patrick Longden. He's like, yes, who is this?
This is Harcourt from the Wentworth Club.
Mr. Harcourt, how are things going?
Things have been, it's been an interesting few months, and some new and confusing events have happened to pass. It seems as though we might have a lead on someone improperly moving museum materials to private collectors.
Yes, you had mentioned that before, some sort of black market.
Indeed. Do you know offhand if there is on staff and someone who would have access to Assyrian sort of materials, a Gibson, a Gibbons, or a Sigmund?
Well, I don't know all of the staff or all the porters.
I shouldn't
I
expect
can
so.
I can certainly look into it.
I'd be most grateful. We might be able to find and interrupt a supply line, if in fact that is the case. It also could be totally erroneous information. It's from a spouse, and she wasn't directly connected, and the name could be wrong.
Well,
I wouldn't want to impugn.
I'll certainly see if I can find something out for you.
That's most kind. And you have our number at the club
Mm-hmm.
and at home.
Yes, maybe we can find out something too about the various assaults that have been going on around the museum as well.
There have been assaults at the museum since the Archie Glossop issue?
Yes, minor assaults mostly.
Great Scott.
We've got a number of people out injured.
Well, that is terribly alarming. Perhaps we should come in and have a conversation about it sooner, if it's a matter of people's physical well-being.
I'm actually in the middle of a project at the moment, but you can make an appointment and come in perhaps tomorrow.
Absolutely, I shall. Thank you. I'm very curious to hear about this matter. It's very disturbing.
Okay.
All right. So I rejoin the fellows and say, well, we've got assaults at the museum in addition. Numerous
Confirms what we've
ones.
been suspecting.
You guys remember way back, I say way back, several months ago now, the fellow that was basically bludgeoned there at the museum.
Yeah, Archie Glossop.
That was Glossop. For some reason, the name Brinslow stuck in my head. That may have been the officer. I can't.
That's the officer. Yes.
It's been a while. Was there ever? I mean, no one saw anything happen, right? No one saw anybody run away. They said, now that when somebody walked in, though, the service entrance.
Yeah, that was, I think, a red turban affair, not a mysterious shadow affair.
Right.
And there was an object stolen, not things smashed.
Right.
Large
As
bus.
always, we seem to have numerous nefarious actors who are not on the same team, as it were.
Felix, do an idea roll.
25 on
Intelligence, yeah, idea.
It's just not.
Hard pass.
It suddenly occurs to you that the statue, the bust of Nabu that was stolen during Glossop's assault was not new. It had been in the museum for quite a long time. So it was definitely not part of the Campbell Thompson dig. As far as you know, nothing from the 1919 dig is on display anywhere in the museum. That's apparently still a secret.
That's what we were thinking this new exhibit will be, the reveal of.
It's got to be there in the building, though, right? Don't they store everything downstairs?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I wonder where these assaults have been taking place. If it's up on the museum floor where all the displays are, or if it's downstairs where the rest of the items are being stored.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Well, we'll find out tomorrow. And maybe even identify Gibbons.
Remind me of a couple of things. Did you guys set up a clipping bureau, didn't you?
Yep.
Yeah.
And what were they looking for?
Help me out, guys. I'm trying to remember now.
Well, let me just make it easier. Let's say that while you're at the Wentworth Club, you get a package And most of the newspaper clippings that are included are, they don't seem related in any way to what your investigation is. However, you do, we'll say, Cyrus, yeah, you start reading this one, and it does sort of catch your eye.
October 23rd, Evening Standard. Londoners gripped with fear. Great, what is it?
Perturbation.
Thanks. Great perturbation appears to have been caused among the public by the... man, I'm sorry. I'm a little blinded. Can somebody want to read this?
Yeah, among the public by the spate of unusual violent assaults sweeping the city of London. The mysterious incident appeared to have started in early October, with Londoners seemingly attacked at random whilst about their business by an unseen phantom. Those accosted related similar experiences, as in each case, the perpetrator had remained indistinct, with some saying that it is a malicious spirit, while others merely stating that they were attacked from the rear and did not see the person responsible. Mr. Cooper, a legal clerk, fell afoul of one such incident on Ladbroke Terrace whilst he was returning home around 9 p.m. On the evening of October 22nd, Mr. Cooper was attacked and suffered a black eye, but he was unable to describe his assailant. Police are urging anyone who may have information relating to the assaults to come forward.
Well, that's certainly alarming. I mean, is it not suggestive, gentlemen, that this shadowy figure that wishes to be freed and is angry about artifacts is also assaulting people more or less at random? It almost makes me want to free it so as to stop them.
Are they random?
Well,
That's a good
Ladbroke,
question.
do they did the as a Londoner, are those locations described all around the museum, all near the museum?
Yeah, most of these assaults have been taking place not too far from the museum, not too far from the neighborhood where the man was murdered and Noble's stuff was damaged. This is definitely not all over the city. Mm-hmm. Felix, do a spot hidden for me.
Oh, 71 on 67.
Do you want to spend some, what, 4 points?
Luck. Would that be okay? 4 luck?
You notice a name, and it pops out at you, and this is what you see. Can you read that?
I can. October 19th, Evening Standard. Are Egyptian ghosts haunting the British Museum? The British Museum is treasure trove of fabulous antiquities from around the world, and now it seems that many of the original owners are coming back to claim their property. So says Mr. Maurice Gibbons, a porter at the museum. Word has reached this newspaper of a series of terrifying phantoms seen and heard in the depths of the British Museum's storage and cataloging vaults. Museum workers claim to have encountered the ghosts whilst about their business, with many too terrified to speak about their brushes with the mischievous spirits. However, one plucky soul, Mr. Gibbons, was happy to relate his experience. I turned a corner and saw the darkness move, said Gibbons. There was a horrible laughing, and then a shadow-like spirit appeared before me, speaking in tongues. If Mr. Gibbons is to be believed, he claims the shadow spirit is the angry spirit of Tutankhamun, which has actually attacked museum staff on more than one occasion. It has been confirmed that at least one member of staff has suffered an injury from a pottery bowl falling on their head. This reporter has also heard that one member of staff, a Mr. E. Williams, has not returned to work since encountering the spirit. Mr. Williams was unavailable for comment. Many of the museum workers are calling for a priest to be called in order to exorcise the museum's storage vaults. The board of the museum have declined to comment.
Well, gentlemen, it's a pity that we only have an initial for Mr. E. Williams, and it's a common surname, because I'd like to find out whether Mr. E. Williams is in fact still alive and sane. But at least we've got a first name for Morris Gibbons.
Mm-hmm.
I'll ring for Sykes to bring a telephone book and see if we can find an address for Gibbons.
You want to go to his house, or would you rather we try to set up something at the museum? My history with the business I'm in, I deal with a lot of shadiness, and I'm pretty sure I can get something set up to where we can buy something off of him. But if we dime him out, he's going to clam up.
Agreed.
Yeah, I would like to at least verify his position in the chain of theft before
I wonder if he has anything at his house.
It's a possibility.
Well, if you... Oh, sorry. I would say if you set up a buy off of him, then you have something to dangle over him, and we could still always go to his house after that.
We also have Edgerton's name. We know Edgerton dealt with him, so we could say that Stanley tipped us off, Morris, that you were a good supplier. It's odd, though, that he should speak to the press when, in fact, he is a source of leakage from the collection.
It's almost like he's trying to hide in plain sight at that point.
Best way to hide. Put all the heat, as they say, off of him. No one would suspect a victim.
Exactly.
Who knows? So, we'd like to wait to contact him?
Yeah. Well, actually, now the bad part is we've dropped his name to the museum.
Yes, but I did engage in some subterfuge there.
Right.
You know, it could be a Gibson or a Sigmund, and you know, what can we do?
Yeah. Can't unring a bell, as they say.
Right.
So all we can do now is work fast and hope we get to him before anything else does.
And the dates on those articles, it just seems like there's ongoing activity, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, between the break-ins, the 3 break-ins we know about, and the 2 assaults described in the paper, it's just all over the place. There's not like, it's not increasing or, you know, or regular. It's not every 6 days or something. It's just ongoing. So there's no urgency in particular, I shouldn't think.
Not as far as the safety of the people.
Poltergeists.
You are frozen.
Poltergeists.
You know, that's what happens when you move. Everyone in Thailand, or traditionally, they have a little miniature version of their house that's nicer, but they put in a post in the yard for the demons to move into. So the demons don't want to be in your house. They want to be in a nicer house. So maybe you could consider that if things are throwing themselves around.
They can go to my room back in Anaheim. It's a much nicer building. It's a nicer area. Of course, it's empty. More room for ghosts. Nope, it's just I didn't put enough book end there to hold up my books. I'll fix it later. All right, so what do you want to do next? You do have somebody on the inside of the museum, which is long done.
Right, but he said he wanted to meet tomorrow.
Right.
Did we want to try and find anything out about this Alan Tillsbury Pine?
Oh yeah, that's a. I mean, given that all the other assaults have been relatively minor, as far as we know, you might be worth seeing whether he's in some ways.
Now, Reginald, weren't you speaking with the one? I mean, we're not getting the police involved with the homes of Edgerton, Smiles, or Price, but can you maybe make an inquiry to your friend at the yard about this Pine without connecting? I mean, nobody called the police about the thefts, so
Correct. The police don't know anything about the thefts.
as long as we don't bring up that, if you want to talk to your contact at the yard, maybe he'd be willing to share some, if they're even covering that case. But it's worth
Yeah, it's certainly worth a phone call. And a offer of a beverage or meal. Looking for his name now. Is that Marcus Brinslow? So many names. Partridge.
Brinslow, Partridge. This is a little bit different part of the city, but you might. Well, you have a connection, so
All right.
that's for your connection.
How late is the museum open today?
Everybody always asks that, and I don't know how late the British Museum is open every day. There are staff there late into the evening doing work, but I think the museum probably closes, say, 8. I knew having the dog inside the room would mean that he would be wanting out. Hold on just a second.
Well,
British Museum hours, 10 a.m. to 8:30 p.m.
So one could probably catch a fella getting off work. Maybe.
Possibly.
Your dog acts like a cat.
Yeah.
Let me in. Let me out. Let me in.
He sleeps as much as a cat.
Well, the cat I live with is over 18 years old, so which is like 94 in human years. So he sleeps about 23 and a half hours a day.
Yeah.
That's the life.
Pretty good. I mean, he's really very spoiled. So yeah, either Brinslow or Partridge. Partridge was the one I spoke to at the museum. So I think that's who I would call to see if there was any knowledge about the assaults going on there.
Brinslow was in charge of Brighton's murder, and Partridge was in charge of Glossop's.
Glossop's. All right.
All right.
I don't know which one I was friends with or something, but I feel like the more complete connection was with Partridge.
Well, and you've left both of the messages that you guys are looking into some of this, and that's okay. All right, so we'll just say you get a hold of Partridge on the phone. He's like, Mr. Harcourt. Any news? Anything more? Any questions?
Not much news, some questions. It has come to my attention that there have been a series of assaults at the museum, which seems quite aberrant and disturbing.
Well, it's a city. There's assaults that go on all the time. But it does seem that since early October, there's been quite a few assaults in and around the museum.
Around as well as within.
Well, we've looked into a number of these, but there's no evidence of anything other than just personal testimony of people.
So it doesn't seem to be an organized thing at all.
Not really. The attackers are often described as some sort of dark presence or somebody sneaking up behind them.
Have there been thefts?
No.
Not pickpockets.
They seem to just simply be attacks by some sort of malevolent shadow or ghost. Quite honestly, we think most of the attacks are caused by too much alcohol, and the person is just not paying attention. I mean, we have a lot of drunks in the city.
Yes, there is a great deal of inebriation. But
the alleged assaults have all taken place somewhere around North London.
So there is perhaps some. I wonder if it's a gang of ruffians or something of the like.
I don't know, but it's there and New Oxford Street near the British Museum that we're getting most of these complaints from.
So there is a sort of locality to it.
It would seem so. Apparently, even one of the museum porters, name of McLaughlin, ended up in the hospital after receiving a good seeing to, if you will.
Oh, heavens. That's appalling. Do you know what hospital is in?
St. Mary's Hospital in Paddington.
Perhaps he can describe something more specific that can be actionable.
First name is Alfred McLaughlin.
That's very kind of you to help. As far as things here go, it's been rather quiet of late, I'm happy to say. But I will be in touch with you should something come to pass that seems worthy of note.
All right.
What were you going to ask him about Pine?
Oh, yes, that Tillsbury Pine fellow. Were you attached at all to that investigation?
No, but I know I know what you're talking about, the case. Apparently Mr. Alan Tillsbury Pine was attacked sometime between 11 and 11:45 p.m. on October 23rd. A patrolling policeman discovered the body on Oxford Gardens at 11:55. The body was slouched on the ground under a wall. The victim was clearly dead and had suffered multiple knocks and punches to the head and torso, as well as being kicked numerous times. Someone had a rage on them and had given him a right going over.
Quite, yes. That's it seems like that relates to my notion earlier that perhaps it's a group of thugs involved.
Possibly,
because I can't see one person doing that much damage to him.
There were no witnesses to the attack. The deceased's family has no explanation as to why anyone would wish to harm Mr. Tillsbury Pine.
Was he very close to his home?
Not too far. His home is on St. Quentin Avenue.
And he was entirely by himself?
Yes, out for an evening walk.
It gives one pause, doesn't it? One wouldn't want a post-prandial stroll if one were to be attacked by a group of thugs.
Well, it certainly seems that it's likely to be linked in some way to the assaults taking place.
Yeah, same general area of town.
There's also been, let's see, there have been some unusual break-ins. There were 2 house break-ins which occurred on the 4th of October and were reported to the police on the 5th of October, both in the same street in North Kensington at the homes of Thomas McPhee and Arthur Wemple Smythe. Both report that the thefts of some items of jewelry were taken. The thief was very good, and there was no sign of how he managed to get inside, as the windows and doors showed no signs of forced entry. The police have no suspects in mind, believing that there's either a master cat burglar that's arrived in town or the robberies are some sort of insurance fraud.
My word, that's quite astonishing in collection. Do you have the impression that stolen articles are worth a great deal?
I don't think so.
Hmm.
Possibly.
But it's also very odd that a master cat burglar wouldn't bludgeon and kick a man to death. That's a terrible giveaway.
It may not be related.
No, it might just be locational. Well, I appreciate very much your openness about this matter. McPhee and Smythes, very curious.
That's 111 and 114 Wallingford Avenue.
Oh, just next door to each other.
Yes.
Remarkable. Yeah,
same time, same night.
And no identifying material. They're just from behind or like shadows.
Well, there's nothing about those two except that they were break-ins that seemed impossible.
Right. And these are, sound homes.
Yes.
Yeah. I see. Well, everything gets stranger every day, doesn't it?
Indeed. Anyways, if I can help you with anything else, give me a call.
I certainly shall. Thank you very much for your help. I'll be in touch.
Click. Once again, nobody says goodbye in entertainment.
It's just not worth the time. So, fellows, I relay this outline, the notes that I took. There's something violent, disruptive, and angry moving around in and around the museum. I'm increasingly fond, except I don't know that Vadim lives close enough to where this agent is acting. But I like the idea of trapping the damn thing, because it seems like a profound menace, somewhat focused on a kind of revenge, but also dangerously random.
It's almost like an attention-seeking child.
It is rather. Throwing its ice cream.
I'm going to break everything until you give me what I want.
Could be. But
Yeah,
it also
that's
kind of
something.
illustrates that this Gibbons fellow might be giving out a lot of artifacts too, potentially.
Yeah, speaking of that, what time is it now? About 5-ish, 6?
Okay, 6.
I'd like to go down to the museum. And I'm just running this by you guys. I'd like to go down to the museum. Wait outside of the exit. The employee exit. When the museum closes and Gibbons comes out, although I don't know what he looks like yet. I can be that shady character off to the side, just watching the folks come out. Obviously, it's a man. That should narrow it down at least by 1 or 2. And I could give it a shot, try to reach out and make a connection there to purchase. I've got plenty of cash, and that's gonna open up a lot of conversational doors, especially with somebody who feeds off that.
There was obviously not a photograph of Morris Gibbons in the article.
No.
I don't see how you could possibly locate one leaving employee. That's the only problem I have with it. I love the idea.
He would be dressed as a porter, I'm guessing. They may have different uniforms.
Yes.
Would
However,
he
there's
wear his
probably
street?
30 or 40 porters.
Well, the first person that comes out, you could give him a £5 note and ask him, who's Porter, what's he look like?
Have you seen Gibbons?
I mean, thank you. Porter.
Gibbons the porter. Yes.
I mean, I assume that they're. That was really exciting. I assume that the porters' uniforms stay at the museum and that they change into their street clothes.
Probably.
Possibly,
They-
yeah.
You know, like you wear your work uniform home.
That's a lot of porters.
They
So
might
there's
have to
4 guys.
wash their own clothes. It might just be coveralls.
No, this is still in a time period when people dressed in suits.
Okay.
Common.
every day, and they owned 2. They had a
Garbage.
Sunday suit.
Yeah,
and
garbage men had suits.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's going to be too many employees for you to randomly guess at.
If only we would have asked Alice.
Did Gibbons have an unusual scar and a
Exactly.
funny mustache?
He looked like a man.
I mean, if it wouldn't be too forward, Alice didn't seem to like her husband socializing with this group. If you called up and played it off right, hey, Mrs. Alice, I was thinking about what you said, with your husband, hanging around these unsavory characters. Can you describe him to me? And I'll make sure to put a stop to it. She'll probably be all gung-ho for that.
That's actually pretty good. I can just give her a call, see if she can describe him. Maybe he is. Maybe
If he's distinctive, she probably would.
Rather than use up the time, if you do that, he's just a guy, well groomed. Obviously, he works at the British Museum, but just average looking.
He's a
Nothing-
really tall, short man with really
Yeah.
long, short hair.
everything extra medium.
But I didn't like the look of him because she thinks that he's a criminal.
Right.
She's
Yeah,
not
the
even
other-
aware that he's a porter. She
Right.
thinks he's a delivery man.
Yeah, the only other thing they could do is stand there like a ticket scalper and just with the money, just slap it on my hands. But I'm not going to do that. So let's.
Well, do an idea roll, Felix.
63 on 80 regular.
Okay. Well, you do have the name of somebody in the hospital
Yeah,
that's apparently been assaulted.
old Alfred.
And Longdon did say that some people at the museum have been assaulted.
Yep.
So those are other leads for other things too.
I just hate to burn the end of the night before our meeting. We may be able to go cruise and talk to Alfred McLaughlin.
May I remind you, gentlemen, also that I need to acquire a statue for my turn.
Yeah,
As
where
much
is
as
the
I-
statue right now?
Much as
I think I have it still.
okay. Before it gets too late in the evening, we should do the transference. As much as I dislike, I will do what I can to glean
Please.
information. But
Vlad, please, you're welcome to come and get it anytime. In fact, let's go right now, because that's just sounds like the best thing I heard all day.
You need break from it. I'll do what I can. I'll try again to see what I can get out of it, but I'm
Let's also say that before you guys do much, you do get a phone call from Mr. Longdon for Harcourt, and he says that he was unable to locate anyone on the staff of the museum named Sigmund or Gibson.
Does that mean there's a Gibbons instead?
Oh, I didn't look for Gibbons. I'm sorry. I can do that as well if you want.
Yeah, that's one of the possibilities, if you would be so kind. Is this a trap?
Wasn't there a Jackson and a Smith also?
We're talking about the cellar of antiquities, not the recent victims.
Oh, yeah, I was just saying in case you don't want to give him the full name, let him single out that guy and act before we can.
Okay, hold on for a second. Outside the game, I think that just backfired a little. I was trying to give you a way out of not saying Gibbons.
That's what I picked up on. That's why I was saying Smith and John.
Yeah.
So
no, I did not get that.
Okay.
Pick up that subtlety.
All right, so he's going to look into Gibbons. Right.
Ask him. Oh, forget it.
It's only one day.
Yeah, and he's getting ready
afternoon.
to leave right now. He'll have to do it tomorrow anyway.
Yeah.
And maybe he'll say, what was that name again?
Or we've got the name, but I have no idea what this guy looks like. He just seems very medium.
Sounds like a long-armed monkey.
You did have a Smythe recently too, so it's like Smythe. Failed.
All right. So it is evening. What do you want to do? Still early evening, 6 o'clock.
Hospital?
Yeah, I'd like to go see Alfred.
Might learn something, although the incorporeality of this thing is causing me some frustration. But the more we learn, the more we learn.
Yeah.
Do you want to do a transfer of the statue before or after we go to hospital?
We don't have to actually.
You're ancients.
What?
He's ancients.
But I'm saying, do we have to role play that out, or can we just say that we stop by the house?
No, you guys can just
Okay.
You exchange it later on. All right, so you head over to St. Mary's.
We should stop by and get the guy a card or something. I mean, we know he's in the hospital. He's probably in a bad way. Just get him I don't know, get him a flower? I don't know. What do you get somebody in a hospital?
Get him some chocolate or something you can
Pair
enjoy.
of bolt cutters.
It's still early. It's England, early 1900s. You get him a card with a dead bird or something on it.
Or just a laudanum tablet built in.
There you go. A pizza.
Well, we could bring him a cigar and some whiskey.
Or we could bring him a fancy
there we go.
statue. He's in a hospital. He can have the terrible dreams there. There's nothing better to do.
Yeah. He's allowed to smoke a cigar in the hospital at this time.
A cigar and a little bit of whiskey wouldn't be too bad.
Yeah, let's do that.
I like that notion.
That's what I'd
It
want
might
if I was
win
in the hospital.
It might win him over with a smoothing
Yeah.
over situation.
I'm going to grab a bottle from the club. That way it doesn't, come out of our pocket because I'm cheap like that. That's how I got so rich.
I'll buy card and
There you
cigar.
All right.
So you get to the hospital, and what excuse do you use to see Mr. McLaughlin?
It's our family member.
Well, Mr. McLaughlin knows that you're not a member of his family.
Oh, I thought you meant to the nurse or something.
Well, yes, but things get found out pretty quickly. If you, he says, "Your brother is here," and he goes, "That's not my brother."
Cousin.
Couple of pound notes.
Yeah, nurses don't take bribes. They're nurses.
What?
Yeah, right.
They're not naughty nurses.
Ma'am, we may have found out who assaulted Mr. McLaughlin. We just need to talk to him for a few minutes to,
Oh, are you investigators?
Yes, ma'am.
Because the police have been here earlier.
Yes, was it Smith and Johnson?
Smith and Wesson?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, you can go up and see him. He's in room 309.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. So you go up to room 309, and Alfie McLaughlin he looks like he's about 56 years old. He's definitely black and blue. In fact, he's got 2 black eyes. And he's resting as you walk in the room, but he's like, "Oh, and who are you?"
Felix Matthews from the Wentworth Club. We're actually looking into several attacks around the city.
Do a spot hidden.
6. Just
That's
6.
nice. Yeah, you can see that he's got really bad black and blue marks around his neck.
Looks like you weren't just beaten, Mr. McLaughlin. It looks like you may have also been choked.
I say, he damn near killed me.
Do you
Whoever
think it was only one?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure it was just one, but one what?
Yeah, because it looks like an entire platoon took shots at you.
Well, I'm a porter at the museum, and I had finished at the museum for the day and was walking along Montague Place, heading towards the bus stop to go home. Then from out of nowhere, this invisible thing grabbed me and threw me down on the pavement. I felt hands punching me, but there was no one there. There was this weight on my chest as if someone were sitting astride me, holding me down. Then this phantom's voice says, "Tell me where Williams is or I'll kill you." Well, I don't mind saying I cried out for help, but no one came. I could feel the breath of this thing on my face. It was awful. It repeated the question, and I say, "I don't know where Williams is. Let me go." I must have angered it, because the next thing I know is the life is being squeezed from me by unseen hands choking me to death. The next thing I know is someone is shouting for the police, and the weight on my chest disappears, and then I blacked out. Now, I don't hold with mumbo jumbo about spirits and ghosts, but I swear, if it wasn't the very devil himself that had near killed me.
I can completely relate. It looks like you took one hell of a beating. The Williams that he was asking about. Do you know a Williams?
Well, I assume that he was talking about what's the name? Crap. I think
His name is Crap Williams.
it's Ted Williams, I think. Hold on. Sorry.
I'm getting an E. Sensing an E.
See, I should have written this all on one piece of paper. Give me a moment. Cut this out. Ted Williams, I'm correct. Okay. He says, well, Ted Williams is another porter, but I don't know where he is. I don't know where he lives. He hasn't been to work for a month.
Ted Williams.
Yes.
Hmm. Do you know a Gibbons?
Maurice Gibbons, yes, he's another porter.
Just this is going to sound like a strange request, but could you describe him?
Average looking, hard worker,
Yeah, that's what we get a lot. That's
dark hair,
Oh.
slick back.
Yeah. Nothing really stands out though, huh? Is he incredibly tall?
Well,
With missing limbs?
I would say, I mean, he's in his early 40s. Clean shaven. He's been assaulted too.
Yeah, that's really what I was asking there.
Well, so he's got a black eye. Last time I saw him.
When was the last time you saw him?
Oh, before my assault, a few days ago.
What section of the museum do you work in?
Oh, various, just depending. We're in the basement.
Where was the last section you worked in before you went home?
11B.
Which would be
11B. It's like a maze down there. It's just storage rooms filled with things. They all look pretty much the same. There's a number on the door to each one of them.
You didn't happen to break anything or knock anything, not looking to accuse or blame.
Oh no, I'm very careful.
I'm sure. I'm sure you are. But did any of that happen while on your shift that day before the incident?
Oh no.
Nothing was broken, nothing was shifted or shaken.
No.
Have any of the other museum porters been accosted?
Well, Gibbons was accosted, but he says it was Tutankhamun's ghost that chased him around. Not bloody likely, if you ask me.
Oh,
I mean,
do
Carter's
agree.
just discovered that. Everybody's talking about it. I don't think he's even emptied the tomb yet.
Seems like everything's related to Tutankhamun these days in regards to antiquity.
Well, it certainly is one of the most popular things to talk about right now.
Most definitely.
Yeah, I think there's been a few other people. There was that lawyer fellow. He's on the museum staff. He was attacked. Cooper is, I think, his last name.
the lawyer is Cooper, you're saying?
Yeah, I don't know what his first name is. But you know, there's always been stories of ghosts in the museum.
Yeah, but Mr. McLaughlin's stories don't put you in the hospital. This seems like more than just a story. This seems like factual.
Well, I don't know everything about it. You could talk to Yates. He's the security head. He probably knows more about other people being assaulted than I do.
Well, we did bring you something. We brought you this bottle.
Higginbottom.
Whiskey.
Jasper Higginbottom's. I think that he was attacked or he saw something. Yeah, he's another porter.
There are a lot of porters at that museum. You guys do
There are a lot of curators that want things moved from here to there.
I can imagine.
Was Higginbottom assaulted before you were?
You know, I don't know if he was assaulted, but he definitely says that he's seen weird things there.
Is he a trustworthy sort?
Oh, we're all trustworthy. Of course we work at the British Museum. I mean, there's porters too. There's There's curators who've seen things. Walter Beams has seen things. Audrey Leicester has seen things. You could probably talk to them all if you get permission from the board of trustees.
I'm sorry, what was Audrey's surname?
I'm sorry, Audrey Leicester, lovely lady.
Audrey Leicester. You're a fan of hers?
Well, I doubt seriously that she'd have any attention to me, but she's a good worker. We're all good workers.
Mean anything untoward, my good man. Do you think you'll be out soon?
I'm hoping that they release me day after tomorrow or so.
And you're feeling much better?
Well, it's very sore. A lot of pain.
Do you feel very emotionally disturbed to have been attacked by something that you can't identify?
I certainly am not going to go walking around in the dark. I'm not going to. I don't know. There's things down in those basements that are. It'll be a while before I want to go back down there again. They're like tombs. There's like nothing. During the daytime, there's very few people down there. During the nighttime, there's nobody down there.
Yes, it seems very disturbing and confusing place. You don't have any uncertainty about your own injuries, though.
I only know what I know. I only know what I experienced.
You didn't have a bad dream, fall down a flight of stairs.
No.
You were assaulted by something you could not see.
I was assaulted. I was punched. I was strangled. Something sat on my chest. There was somebody there, but it spoke to me, but sounded like a man.
Understand what it intended.
Well, it wanted to find Williams for some reason. That's all it said to me.
When he spoke to you, did it have any sort of an accent? Was it British? Was it European? I mean, Eastern European? Was
British people don't have accents. We speak properly.
RP.
No, he says just sounded like a regular man.
Londoner.
Yeah, I mean, he was angry, but there was nobody there.
Did it sound like a young voice or an old voice?
Oh, I don't know. It sounded like it definitely sounded like somebody with a bit of breeding, a bit of a posh accent.
Mm. Yeah, educated monster.
Indeed.
That's peculiar. Well, I do appreciate your taking the time. And of course, you're stuck here. If there's something you think of, and I hand him a card. We're based from the Wentworth Club, and we're investigating a series of confusing events like yours. You're not alone. So anything you might relate to us could prove to be helpful, and we'd like to be helpful in any way we can. I hope your recovery is swift and sure.
Of course.
Morris had a black eye. Cooper was the lawyer, right?
Correct.
Yeah, any other names that come to you too? And because the more assaults that we learn about, the more we might be able to figure out some pattern to this madness.
Of course. If I know anything more, I'll tell you.
I'm most grateful.
A token for your time. For when you get out.
Thanks.
I just didn't want to carry it back.
Now,
I drop off the cigar and the card there too, next to his bed.
let's see. I'd like Fuller. Do an idea roll.
Oh yeah, I definitely got it.
Okay. One of the articles, the Londoners Gripped with Fear, mentions Cooper.
Huh.
That Mr. Cooper was attacked on the evening of October 22nd.
Okay, so Mr. Cooper was attacked on the night of the 27th,
22nd.
22nd, and we're running into so many people that we got to find. And so, what do we do? Are we going to go for Williams first? You want to check on Cooper?
What do you remember, Fuller? What Cooper's injuries were? Were we in the same hospital, different hospital?
I don't believe it said.
It didn't say about that. It just that he was attacked on Ladbroke Terrace.
Ladbroke Terrace. Right. So we could, and we have an address there, right? Specifically a number.
What was Cooper's first name?
What was it?
I don't think that it said in
It
the
was
article.
just
And
missing.
he's a lawyer.
But could we ask this guy in the bed?
He said that he didn't know.
Oh, he didn't know. Okay.
He just knew that lawyer guy Cooper is one of the people who was attacked.
Well, there can't be too many attorneys named Cooper, could there? I mean, I guess there could, but that
Could be a
does
few,
definitely
but-
whittle it down.
Yeah, I think that would definitely whittle it down.
Barrister Cooper.
Okay. Well, what are you going to do? Look in the phone book?
Just gonna look in the phone book real quick for
Okay.
is
You do find a B. Cooper living on Ladbroke Terrace in Notting Hill, West London.
Yeah. That seems like a positive idea to me, friends.
it's good enough for us to go knock on a door. In my opinion, I knock on
Yeah.
many doors to spread the good news.
All right. So you take a little trip over there, which is probably going to be your last trip for the evening.
It is getting a little late.
And it's a 2-story place. Doesn't look fancy. You knock on the door, and Mr. Cooper answers the door. And you can see he's a rather good-looking man, slick black hair, black eye, like he'd been punched right square in the face. And he's like, "Yes, I'm sorry. I'm out. I'm not doing any business for the evening. You could come back to my office tomorrow." And he
Mr.
hands you a card.
Mr. Cooper, for just a moment, I'm Felix Matthews. I'm from the Wentworth Club. We're actually investigating these attacks. One that I think you fell victim to.
Oh, you're investigating the attacks.
Yes,
You're not here to do business. All right.
No. I've kept my nose clean enough to where hopefully I didn't need a lawyer.
Well, I reported the incident to the police, and they've done absolutely nothing about it. What can I tell you? I was working late in my office on the 22nd of October. I was returning home. Just as I went to turn onto Ladbroke Terrace around, I'd say 9 p.m., I heard someone muttering. They were jibber-jabbing about something as if they were talking to themselves, but I couldn't find anyone. There was nobody within sight, but I could hear this voice getting louder as if it were coming towards me. And it was quite strange and unsettling. The voice was saying something like, "Damn, Williams, got to get it. It's hopeless." He kept repeating things like that, something about Williams. And then all of a sudden, his voice cried out. It says, "Earwigging, I'll teach you." And the next thing I know, I was punched in the face by nothing.
Earwicking, you say?
Eavesdropping. As if I was eavesdropping on his conversation. I don't know who it was. I don't know what it was, but he punched me, sent me reeling backwards onto the pavement. Whoever it was, he was very quick because he vanished in a flash. He was gone. I saw nothing.
Well, here's an odd question.
It's like he was the invisible man.
Right. Do you have any dealings with antiquities?
I work for the museum, if that's what you're asking.
Did you have any direct contact with anything in the basement that morning or
No.
the day before the attack?
No, I never go down into the basement. I have no reason to do that. I go to my office and I leave.
Do you know any Williams that are at the museum that may be the Williams this person was speaking of?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Of course, I don't know. 80% of the staff, I don't know.
Right.
No, we don't know a great number of people we interact with on a daily basis.
What makes you think that this Williams fellow is somebody on the staff?
There isn't any reason to believe that specifically, except that there have been more than one attack. There's been more than one attack, and more than one attacker mentioned the name. And
I've heard that there were more than one attack. You say more than one person has mentioned the name Williams.
Yeah,
that's correct, sir.
Intriguing.
Yes. Yes. And of course, it's a very common name and easily misunderstood. So they could be totally unrelated matters. But we are, as we are pursuing any possible correlation, we look at that name as well as other things. For example, your relationship to the museum. You don't know a Higginbottom, do you?
No.
So, for example, another correlation that could have been that is not.
Well, I'd like to know how he did it.
So would we, quite desperately. It's quite ingenious, it seems. What was the circumstance of your invasion?
I was simply attacked on the street.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Now, you work on behalf of the British Museum, correct?
Yes, if they need legal things worked out or forms written up.
Now, I don't need to know the particulars of your case, but have you done anything with the Nineveh items or anything from Iraq recently?
As I recall, there's been some legal questions coming up concerning maybe 4 or 5 years ago, a dig in
Nineveh,
some place called Nineveh. That all has to do, though, with the Iraqi government, and the British Museum does acquire things sometimes from other countries, and
Certainly.
there are some problems with Iraq. There's Iraqi government at the moment.
correct.
But I haven't really worked on any of that directly. I'm more in dealing with, people who are trying to defraud the museum by selling them fake, Peruvian artifacts. Or Is there anything else I can do for you? Good night. Click.
Late, guys.
Well, everyone that's been attacked seems to have something to do with, well, all to do with the museum, especially the basement. Maybe we could find out what's in B11B storage, but he might be signing papers that are dealing with Iraq. Whoever this spirit, which I'm thinking is not even a spirit any longer, seems to be going through anyone and everyone who has anything to do with possibly the Nineveh dig.
Gentlemen, I'm getting a bad feeling about this. Hearing more of this information it has me concerned, very concerned that we're dealing with. Let me ponder upon it further, and I'll describe my thoughts to you later on. I'm rather concerned that we may be dealing with, and this may be a long shot, but we might be dealing with our second party here. The ones that had the observers.
Maybe.
And if it's what I think it is, we may be dealing with something that we may be dealing with someone involved in the occult that is above and beyond us. We're not talking about dabblers or investigators. We're talking about a true occultist who actually knows quite a bit more than we do.
Well, rather than what did I call it? Spirit or a poltergeist, it sounds like somebody who can turn himself invisible.
That's what I'm saying. We're dealing with someone who actually, this sounds crazy, but we deal with crazy. I think we're dealing with someone who could be actually a warlock.
But you know what? Invisible or not, you can't dodge a shotgun blast.
No, you cannot. But nobody's tried to shoot at the assailant or fight back. It's if they can. I have a suspicion, but as I said, I need to really look into a few things in my library to confirm it.
So we should look up who this Ted Williams is. That I have that name, right? That's the Ted Williams? Okay.
That's correct.
One final question. Cirrus and Vadim. Describe exchanging the statue.
Well, he would come up to my apartment. I'd take out a big steamer trunk at the foot of the bed, take off a padlock, open it up, take out a group of chains that I have wrapped around it. So if somebody tried to break it, they'd have to carry this big hunking, chained up statue along with the weight of the statue and the chains, unlock the 2 locks on that, and then take this thing out of my damn sight. I feel bad handing it to you, but no, I don't.
I'm going to make sure I wrap it up and not directly hold the chains.
Well, I leave the chains in the
Yes.
trunk. You don't. I just put it there as a deterrent in case somebody came to run away with it. They got to carry 20-foot chain with them too.
Right.
So basically, Vadim, you have it wrapped in what, like red velvet?
Yes, and put in a box that's locked. A metal box that's locked, strong box.
Okay. And then, Vadim, what do you do?
Gonna take it and put it into my my personal vaults at home.
Okay. And you weren't going to study it or anything like that this evening?
Not this evening, but I'm gonna have a closer look at it through the course, because I'm figuring that the dreams are gonna come on. I'm gonna start working with studying the dreams, and then when I have time in between, I'm going to take it out and do some further studies on the statue.
Do a power roll.
Okay. Nope.
Okay. So this evening, when you go to sleep, you Your dream starts out well enough. It's like you're at a garden party somewhere, and everybody is having a good time, and they're walking around chatting. And all of a sudden, there's a commotion off in the distance, and you hear screams, and people are running in your direction, but you're compelled to go see what's causing the commotion. And in the center of the green, where there were set up food and chairs and things like that, the ground is cracked open and fountains of blood are shooting up like geysers. And cracks are forming from this hole as the blood is going out, and people are falling into the cracks, and the sky is turning red, and lightning is flashing all around you, and something is coming, and it's there. And as that realization hits you, you wake up screaming in the middle of the night.
Ah!
And that's where we'll end it. Right. Our players included Jason Melnichuk, John Byram, Ford Fitch, Jerry Bryant, and David Gastaway, with yours truly as the keeper of the secrets. We're currently producing up to 5 shows a week with music and sound effects added in post-production in order to create a richer listener experience. We provide audio-only versions of our shows free to download from Podbean or iTunes. The costs involved with this show are provided almost entirely by our patrons. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. If you'd like to support our show, please visit our Patreon account. Just $1 or $2 a month helps us a lot. You can find a link in the description below. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and punch that bell icon for updates on our latest shows, and leave us some comments. We enjoy reading them and answering any questions you might have. This is Tom Rayleigh, together with all the members of our gaming club, inviting you to journey with us once again into the darkness for another adventure into the universe of H.P. Lovecraft and the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Until next time, good luck and good gaming.